The champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble floor with a piercing crash that silenced the room. Across the opulent ballroom, beneath the glinting chandeliers, Alex's eyes locked onto hers. An electric jolt of past and present colliding in a single charged moment. In the midst of elite indulgence, the gala became a battlefield of raw emotions and unspoken truths, igniting the possibility of a second chance that neither dared to imagine could still exist. Chapter 1. The Gala's Echo. The music thrummed through the grand hall like a living entity, each note a reminder of what once was and what might still be. Crystal chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceiling, casting prismatic reflections that danced across the room like whispers of forgotten dreams. Sophia stood by the towering marble column, its cool surface grounding her amidst the swirl of opulence. The golden lights played upon her sequined dress, transforming it into a sea of shimmering stars. Her heart raced, not from the champagne's effervescence, but from the man who had just entered the room. Alex. Their eyes locked, and the bustling world around them blurred into a distant hum. She could feel the electricity in the air, a tangible tension that pulled at her every nerve, as if the universe itself held its breath. It had been 2 years since they last stood in the same room. 2 years of silence and distance, despite moving in the same elite social circles. Time had etched its mark on both of them, yet the essence of their connection remained unchanged, simmering beneath the surface. Alex moved with a grace that was both effortless and commanding, his tailored suit sculpted to perfection against his lean frame. The crowd parted for him instinctively, as if sensing the gravity of the moment, an unspoken acknowledgement of his presence. He stopped mere inches from her, close enough for her to catch the scent of his familiar cologne, a heady mix of cedarwood and citrus that sent her mind spiraling back to shared laughter and whispered secrets in sunlit rooms. "Sophia," he said, his voice a smooth, familiar melody that resonated deep within her. "Alex." Her reply barely rose above a whisper, yet it carried the weight of years of unresolved emotions, a single word laden with history and heartache. The gala around them continued, oblivious to the storm brewing in their midst. Sophia glanced away, feigning interest in the artfully arranged bouquets of white lilies and deep red roses that dotted the room, their scent mingling with the rich aroma of gourmet dishes being served. Yet her heart was tethered to the man before her, caught in the gravitational pull of their shared past. "Didn't expect to see you here," Alex continued, his tone light but edged with something unsaid, a shadow of regret perhaps. She met his gaze again, this time with a defiant lift of her chin. "It's a charity event, Alex, even we have to show up occasionally," she replied, her voice carrying a hint of playful challenge, a remnant of their old banter. A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips, softening the sharp lines of his face. "Even us," he echoed, a flicker of warmth in his eyes briefly melting the cool facade. The air between them crackled with a past too potent to ignore. Memories flooded back, nights tangled in sheets, mornings spent in lazy conversation, promises made and broken like the fragile wings of a butterfly. It was the kind of love that scorched and healed in equal measure, leaving indelible marks on their souls. "So, how have you been?" The question was too simple for the loaded history they shared, yet it was a bridge towards the tentative hope of understanding. Sophia hesitated, the truth teetering on her tongue like a precarious secret. "Busy," she finally said, a safe answer that hid the chaos of her heart, the sleepless nights spent questioning and yearning. He nodded, a flicker of disappointment crossing his features before disappearing behind a practiced smile. "Same here. The family's business keeps me on my toes," he remarked, his voice carrying the weight of unspoken burdens. The mention of his family brought a sharp pang of memory. The very world that had drawn them together had also torn them apart, a web of expectations and obligations that neither could escape. She swallowed hard, pushing down the bitterness that threatened to surface, the taste of regret lingering like a shadow. As the conversation continued, their words danced around the elephant in the room, a choreography of caution and curiosity. The air was charged with the magnetic push and pull of what could have been and what still might be. Every stolen glance, Every accidental touch was a reminder of the fire that never truly died, an ember waiting to ignite. Sophia's resolve wavered as she watched him, the ache of longing mingling with the sting of betrayal. She could see it in his eyes too, a hope, a question. Could they find their way back to each other amidst the chaos of their lives? Was there a path that could lead them beyond the tangled thorns of their past? The Gala's music shifted into a slow, haunting melody that wrapped around them like a gentle embrace, and instinctively, Alex extended a hand. "Dance with me," he asked, his voice a tender invitation. Her heart stumbled at the invitation, torn between the safety of distance and the temptation of closeness. But in that moment, her heart spoke louder than her head, and she placed her hand in his, feeling the familiar warmth seep into her skin. As he led her to the dance floor, the world faded away, leaving only the rhythm of their hearts and the possibility of a second chance. The music swirled around them, a tapestry of hope and redemption, as they moved together in a dance that was both an ending and a beginning. Chapter 2. The Dance of Shadows. The dance floor stretched before them, a vast expanse of polished wood reflecting the flickering candlelight that adorned the table surrounding it. As they began to sway to the music, Sophia felt the years of distance dissolve like mist under the morning sun. The warmth of Alex's hand on her waist was both familiar and foreign, a reminder of what had been lost and what could be regained. Their movements were tentative at first, like the uncertain waltz of old friends rediscovering each other's rhythm. But as the music enveloped them, their steps grew bolder, more assured. They spun and twirled, the world narrowing down to the space between them, where words were unnecessary and silence spoke volumes. "Do you remember the last time we danced?" Alex asked, his voice barely audible over the melody that wrapped around them. Sophia nodded, a bittersweet smile tugging at her lips. "It was at the Winter Gala, just before." Her voice trailed off, the unspoken everything fell apart, hanging in the air like a specter. He gave her a gentle twirl, bringing her back into his arms with a tenderness that belied the tumultuous history between them. "I've thought about that night often," he confessed, his eyes searching hers for understanding, for forgiveness. Sophia's heart ached with the weight of memories, both cherished and painful. "So have I," she admitted, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "I always wondered if we could have done things differently." Alex's gaze softened, his grip on her hand tightening slightly. "Maybe we still can," he suggested, the words laden with hope and a yearning for reconciliation. As they danced, the world beyond the dance floor continued in its opulent splendor, guests laughing and mingling, oblivious to the quiet drama unfolding in their midst. Yet, for Sophia and Alex, time seemed to stand still, each moment stretching into eternity. The music shifted again, the tempo quickening, but they remained locked in their private rhythm, a dance of shadows and light. Sophia felt her resolve melting, the wall she had built around her heart crumbling under the weight of his gaze. "Are you happy, Sophia?" Alex asked suddenly, his voice cutting through the music like a sharp blade of truth. The question caught her off guard, and for a moment, she faltered, her steps faltering. I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling with the admission. "I thought I was, but seeing you again." He nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. "I feel the same," he confessed, his voice raw with emotion. "I've missed you more than I can say." Sophia's heart swelled with a mixture of joy and fear, the prospect of rekindling their connection both exhilarating and terrifying. But as they continued to dance, she realized that perhaps this was their chance, their moment to reclaim what had been lost. As the final notes of the song faded into silence, Alex drew her closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Whatever happens, Sophia, know that I never stop caring for you." She closed her eyes, savoring the moment, the possibility of a new beginning. "I never stopped either," she whispered, her heart full of hope and uncertainty. The Gala's echo lingered in the air, a testament to the power of love and the promise of second chances. As they stepped off the dance floor, hand in hand, Sophia felt a sense of peace settle over her, a quiet assurance that whatever the future held, they would face it together. Chapter 3. A World Reimagined. The Gala Hall, now a distant memory, was replaced by the world outside, an expanse of possibilities and uncharted territory. Sophia and Alex stepped into the cool night air, the city skyline a jagged silhouette against the indigo sky. The transformation was palpable, like they had emerged from a chrysalis into a realm where time bent to their will. They walked in silence, the charged atmosphere between them, humming with potential and unspoken words. The streetlights cast long shadows, their footsteps echoing in the stillness of the night. Sophia's heart raced, her mind a whirl of emotions, hope, fear, and a longing that refused to be ignored. Suddenly, Alex stopped, turning to face her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Sophia," he began, his voice a low rumble, "tonight changed everything for me. I can't pretend that it didn't." His words struck like lightning, igniting a fire within her that she had long tried to suppress. "Alex, she faltered, the enormity of their past and the fragile nature of their future clashing within her. He stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking to a whisper. "I need to know, Sophia, do you want this? Do you want us?" The question hung in the air, a challenge and a plea. Her heart thudded in her chest, the truth clawing its way to the surface. "Yes," she finally admitted, her voice trembling with the weight of her confession. "I want this. I want us." The words had barely left her lips when he pulled her into his arms, their bodies colliding with a force that was both exhilarating and terrifying. His lips found hers, the kiss a fervent declaration of everything they had left unsaid. The world around them faded, leaving only the searing heat of their connection. As they broke apart, breathless and unsteady, Alex's eyes burned with a fierce determination. "We're going to make this work, Sophia," he vowed, his grip on her unyielding. "No more running, no more hiding." The promise resonated within her, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos of her emotions. Yet the path ahead was fraught with complications, shadows that threatened to encroach on their newfound light. "What about your family?" Sophia asked, the reality of their situation crashing down like a cold wave. "They never approved of me." Alex's jaw tightened, a flash of defiance in his eyes. "I don't care what they think anymore. This is my life, and I choose you." His declaration sent a thrill through her, but doubt lingered, a persistent echo of past heartbreak. "And what about the distance? The demands of our lives?" she pressed, the questions tumbling out in a rush. He cupped her face in his hands, his gaze steady and unwavering. "We'll figure it out, Sophia, together. I'm done letting everything else dictate what we can have." Her heart swelled with a fierce joy, the promise of a second chance, more intoxicating than any dream she had dared to entertain. Yet beneath the surface lay the shadows of their past, the wounds that had yet to fully heal. As they continued their walk, the city unfolding around them like a living tapestry, Sophia felt the weight of their history and the promise of their future entwine. The night was theirs, a canvas upon which they could paint a new beginning, a world reimagined through the lens of love and redemption. But as they moved forward, hand in hand, the specter of uncertainty loomed. The road ahead was littered with hurdles, trials that would test the strength of their resolve and the depth of their commitment. In the quiet of the night, as the city slumbered, Sophia and Alex embraced the unknown, their hearts alight with the possibilities of a world transformed by the power of their love. Chapter 3. A World Reimagined. The city pulsed with life as Sophia and Alex tread the familiar streets, yet everything felt different, as if the universe had shifted on its axis. The night air crackled with energy, a heady mix of anxiety and excitement, coursing through their veins. The path ahead was uncharted, their hearts beating in sync as they stepped into the unknown. Their newfound resolve was an intoxicating force, but the world was quick to remind them of its complexities. As they turned a corner, a familiar face emerged from the shadows. Isabella, Alex's former lover, her presence a sudden jolt to the fragile equilibrium they had just begun to build. Sophia, Isabella's voice was smooth, almost mocking as she stepped towards them, her eyes flicking between the two with a knowing gleam. Can expect to see you back in the picture. Sophia's heart tightened, the sharp edge of jealousy slicing through her. Isabella, she replied coolly, willing herself to stand firm against the undercurrent of insecurity that threatened to surface. Alex shifted beside her, his hand slipping protectively around her waist. Isabella, this isn't the time, he said, his voice laced with warning. But Isabella was undeterred, her smile a cat-like curl. Oh, but it's always time for old friends, isn't it? She purred, her gaze lingering on Alex in a way that made Sophia's blood simmer. The tension was palpable, an electric charge that hung between them like a storm waiting to break. Sophia could feel Alex's grip on her tighten, a silent promise of support as the past loomed like a specter. I guess some things never change, Isabella continued, her words a calculated strike. But then again, you've always been good at juggling, haven't you, Alex? Sophia's heart burned with a mix of anger and fear, the shadows of doubt creeping in. But before she could voice her retort, Alex stepped forward, his presence commanding as he faced Isabella. That's enough, he said, his voice firm, cutting through the tension like a blade. Sophia and I are moving forward, and nothing you say can change that. Isabella's smile faltered, a flicker of frustration passing over her features before she masked it with indifference. We'll see about that, she said with a dismissive wave, turning on her heel and disappearing into the night. The confrontation left a lingering chill, a reminder of the obstacles that lay ahead. Alex turned to Sophia, his eyes filled with determination and a hint of vulnerability. I'm sorry, he murmured, his voice raw with sincerity. I should have told you about her. Sophia shook her head, her resolve hardening in the face of doubt. We can't change the past, Alex, but we can decide how to handle it now, she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden vibration of Alex's phone. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening as he read the message. It's my father, he said, a tightness in his voice that spoke volumes. Sophia's heart clenched, the reality of their situation crashing over her like a tidal wave. What does he want? She asked, bracing herself for the inevitable confrontation. He wants me to come back to take over the business, Alex replied, his voice tinged with frustration. But it feels like a trap, a way to control me. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, the choices before them fraught with consequences. Sophia knew the depth of Alex's struggle, the push and pull of family loyalty and personal freedom. What are you going to do? She asked, her voice a whisper of support and concern. Alex met her gaze, the conflict in his eyes mirrored in her own. I don't know yet, he admitted, his voice a mix of determination and uncertainty. But whatever I decide, it has to be what's right for us. The declaration sent a thrill through Sophia, the promise of unity, a beacon amidst the chaos. But the road ahead was perilous, their path littered with obstacles that threatened to derail their second chance. As they resumed their walk, the city thrumming around them, Sophia felt a surge of resolve. Their love was a force to be reckoned with, a fire that refused to be extinguished. Yet the shadows of their past and the demands of their present loomed large, a reminder of the challenges they faced. But in the depths of the night, beneath the stars that bore witness to their journey, Sophia and Alex embraced the uncertainty, their hearts alight with the promise of a world reimagined through the power of their love. Chapter 4. The Crucible of Hearts. The streets of the city that had once felt like a sanctuary now loomed with a new intensity as Sophia and Alex navigated the web of their reimagined world. The echoes of their past trailed them like shadows, the vibrant pulse of their connection threatened by the specters of doubt and betrayal that lurked at every corner. It was a week after the gala, and the air was thick with the unspoken tension between them, a fragile thread stretched taut by the weight of their history and the demands of their present. Sophia felt the pressure mounting within her, a storm of emotions that clamored for release. The day had started innocuously enough, with Alex leaving for a meeting with his father. promising that they would find a way to balance the demands of his family with their newfound commitment. But as the hours slipped by, a sense of unease gnawed at Sophia, a premonition that their world was about to be upended. Her fears were confirmed when Isabella's name flashed across her phone screen, the message a taunting reminder of the past she had tried to leave behind. "Meet me at the old cafe," it read, a summons that carried the weight of a challenge. Sophia's heart pounded as she approached the cafe, the familiar setting now tinged with a sense of foreboding. Isabella was already there, her presence a siren call of danger and allure, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of mischief and malice. "I knew you'd come," Isabella said, a sly smile playing at her lips as she gestured for Sophia to sit. "There's something you need to know." Sophia hesitated, the instinct to protect herself clashing with the need to confront the demons of her past. "What do you want, Isabella?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil brewing within her. Isabella leaned forward, her gaze piercing as she delivered the blow. "Alex isn't who you think he is. He has secrets, Sophia. Secrets that could destroy everything you two are trying to build." The words landed like a physical blow, the ground shifting beneath Sophia's feet as doubt clawed its way to the surface. "You're lying," she said, her voice wavering as she fought to hold on to the fragile remnants of trust. Isabella's laughter was a dagger, sharp and cutting. "Am I? Ask him about the business deal with my father, about the partnership that could make or break his family's empire." Sophia's world tilted on its axis, the revelation a chasm that threatened to swallow her whole. She stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor as she backed away from the table. "I don't believe you," she said, her voice a whisper of defiance wrapped in desperation. But the seed of doubt had been planted, the tendrils of suspicion winding their way around her heart as she left the cafe, Isabella's mocking laughter echoing in her ears. The confrontation with Isabella had left her raw, her emotions a chaotic torrent as she sought solace in the familiar sanctuary of the city park. The paths that had once brought her peace were now fraught with uncertainty, the shadows lengthening as the sun dipped below the horizon. It was there that Alex found her, his expression a mix of relief and concern as he approached. "Sophia, I was worried," he said, reaching for her hand. "I heard you met with Isabella." Sophia pulled away, the distance between them a chasm filled with unspoken fears. "Is it true?" she demanded, her voice trembling with the weight of her heartache. "Is there a deal with her father?" Alex's silence was an admission, the truth unraveling like a thread pulled taut to its breaking point. "It's complicated," he began, his voice faltering as he struggled to find the words. The betrayal cut deep, a wound that bled with the realization that their second chance was built on a foundation of secrets. "You should have told me," Sophia said, her voice cracking under the strain of her emotions. "We said no more hiding, Alex." His eyes were filled with regret, a storm of conflicting emotions playing across his features. "I wanted to protect you, Sophia. I thought I could handle it." The words were a balm and a poison, the intent noble but the execution flawed. Sophia turned away, the weight of their past and the uncertainty of their future pressing down on her like a physical force. The silence stretched between them, a fragile bridge that threatened to collapse under the strain of their unspoken fears and unfulfilled promises. But as the night deepened, a new resolve took root within Sophia, a determination to confront the shadows that threatened to consume them. "We'll face this together," she said, her voice a whisper of hope amidst the chaos. "But you have to be honest with me, Alex, no more secrets." His nod was a vow, a promise forged in the crucible of their shared pain and passion. "I will, Sophia, I swear it." Their entangled hearts beat in unison, a rhythm of love and redemption that pulsed through the night. Yet the road ahead was fraught with danger, the specters of betrayal and power struggles casting long shadows over their path. As they stood together beneath the stars, the crucible of their love tested and tempered by the fires of adversity, Sophia and Alex embraced the uncertainty of their future, their hearts alight with the raw emotion and high stakes of a world reimagined through the power of their love. Chapter 5. The Breaking Point. The city was a kaleidoscope of lights and shadows, as Sophia and Alex returned to the transformed world that awaited them. The night sky hung heavy with the promise of conflicts, the air electric with the tension that had simmered beneath the surface for far too long. The walk back to Alex's apartment was fraught with silence, the weight of their recent confrontation pressing down upon them like a tangible force. Sophia's heart was a tumultuous storm of emotions, her mind racing with the implications of the secrets that had been laid bare. As they entered the apartment, the door clicked shut behind them with an ominous finality, sealing them in a space that was both a haven and a crucible. Sophia turned to Alex, her eyes burning with a mix of anger and hurt. "So, what now?" she demanded, her voice echoing in the tension-filled room. "Isabella knows about the deal, Alex. How can we trust anything when everything feels like a lie?" Alex raked a hand through his hair, frustration etched into his features. "I never wanted you to find out like this, Sophia. I was trying to find a way to end it without dragging you into the mess." The words stung, a reminder of the delicate balance they had tried to maintain, now shattered by the weight of truth. "But you did drag me into it, Alex," she retorted, her voice rising with the crescendo of her emotions. "And now we're standing here, on the edge of losing everything." The silence that followed was a chasm, a gaping wound that threatened to swallow them whole. Yet within that silence lay the seeds of a decision, a path forward that demanded sacrifice and clarity. "We have to face this head-on," Alex declared, his voice firm with resolve. "No more hiding, no more running. We confront my father, Isabella, everything together." The ultimatum hung in the air, a challenge and a plea that reverberated through the room. Sophia felt the weight of the choice before her, the potential for both redemption and ruin. "Okay," she agreed, her voice steady despite the chaos within. "But if we're doing this, we do it on our terms." The agreement was a fragile truce, a promise to face the storm together, even as the winds threatened to tear them apart. But the peace was short-lived. The shrill ring of Alex's phone shattered the moment, the caller ID flashing his father's name, a harbinger of the confrontation they could no longer avoid. "Answer it," Sophia urged, her heart pounding with the anticipation of the battle to come. Alex nodded, the tension in his jaw a testament to the internal war he waged as he accepted the call. "Father," he said, his voice a controlled tempest of emotion. The conversation was brief, the words exchanged fraught with undercurrents of power and expectation. As Alex ended the call, Sophia could see the decision etched into his features, a decision that would test the very fabric of the relationship. "We need to go to him," Alex said, his voice grim with determination. "This ends tonight." The declaration was a catalyst, propelling them into the night once more, the city a blur of motion and light as they raced towards the confrontation that loomed like a specter on the horizon. The estate was an imposing fortress, its grandeur a stark contrast to the turmoil that simmered beneath its surface. As they approached the entrance, Sophia's heart raced with the knowledge that this was a point of no return, a crucible that would either forge their bond anew or shatter it beyond repair. The confrontation was explosive, the air thick, with the tension of alliances and loyalties pushed to their breaking point. Alex's father was a formidable presence, his voice a calculated blend of authority and challenge, as he faced his son. "You think you can defy me, Alex?" he demanded, his gaze flicking to Sophia with a disdain that made her blood boil. "And for what? A woman who will only drag you down." The insult landed like a blow, the implication slicing through Sophia's defenses. But before she could respond, Alex stepped forward, his presence a shield against the barrage of words. "I'm not going to let you control my life anymore," Alex declared, his voice unwavering even as the weight of his father's expectations bore down upon him. "Sophia and I are building something real, something you can't dictate." The ultimatum was a crack of thunder, a declaration of independence that sent shockwaves through the room. Yet even as Alex stood firm, Sophia could feel the tendrils of doubt creeping in, the fear that their second chance was crumbling under the pressure. But in that moment of vulnerability, a fierce determination took root within her, a resolve to fight for the love that had been forged in the crucible of their hearts. "This is our choice," Sophia said, her voice clear and strong as she met the gaze of the man who sought to tear them apart. "And we're not backing down." The words were a Gala thrown, a challenge that reverberated through the room, casting the die for their future. Yet as the confrontation reached its crescendo, the shadows of betrayal and power struggles loomed large, threatening to overshadow the fragile bonds they had fought to rebuild. In the crucible of their love, tested and tempered by the fires of adversity, Sophia and Alex faced the breaking point, a moment of truth that would define the very essence of their reimagined world. Chapter 6: The Inferno of Truth. The estate's grand ballroom echoed with the whispers of the past, its opulence a stark contrast to the storm brewing within its walls. The confrontation with Alex's father had set the stage for a night of revelations, each moment charged with the weight of secrets and the sharp edge of betrayal. Sophia and Alex stood side by side, their resolve a fragile shield against the onslaught of the night. The air was thick with tension, the gilded chandeliers casting long shadows that danced like specters across the polished marble floor. The first explosion came from a source all too familiar, Isabella, her entrance as dramatic as her intentions were transparent. Her eyes gleamed with a dangerous mix of triumph and malice as she approached, her voice a silken purr that belied the venom within. "I see you've brought your little project along, Alex," she taunted, her gaze flicking to Sophia with a calculated cruelty. Sophia's heart burned with the sting of the insult, yet she held her ground, unwilling to let Isabella's barbs pierce the armor she had painstakingly forged. "Isabella," she said coolly, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "We're not here for your games." But Isabella was undeterred, her smile a weapon honed for destruction. "Oh, but games are all we have, aren't they? Especially when secrets are the currency." Her words were a challenge, an invitation for chaos to reign. The air crackled with anticipation, the unspoken question of what Isabella knew hanging like a sword poised to strike. Alex's gaze was a storm of conflicted emotions, the weight of his past and the precariousness of their future entwined in a dance as volatile as it was intimate. "You don't know what you're talking about," Alex growled, his voice a low rumble of warning. But the defiance in his tone was tinged with a vulnerability that made Sophia's heart ache. Isabella laughed, the sound a cruel melody that filled the room. "Don't I? Maybe you should ask Sophia about the deal she made with my father." The accusation landed like a thunderclap, the shockwave of its implications shattering the fragile peace that had held them together. Sophia's heart lurched, the ground shifting beneath her feet as the truth of her own actions came to light. "Isabella's lying," she insisted, her voice tight with the strain of holding back her own secrets. But the flicker of doubt had already taken root, the tendrils of suspicion winding their way through Alex's gaze. The second confrontation was swift and brutal, Alex's father stepping forward with a scornful sneer. "You think you can defy me, Alex, with huh?" His gaze was a blade, cutting through the veneer of civility with ruthless precision. Alex squared his shoulders, his defiance a beacon against the storm. "This isn't about you anymore, father, it's about us," he said, his voice unwavering even as the weight of his father's expectations bore down upon him. The declaration was a crack of thunder, a declaration of independence that sent shockwaves through the room. Yet even as Alex stood firm, Sophia could feel the tendrils of doubt creeping in, the fear that their second chance was crumbling under the pressure. But in that moment of vulnerability, a fierce determination took root within her, a resolve to fight for the love that had been forged in the crucible of their hearts. "This is our choice," Sophia said, her voice clear and strong as she met the gaze of the man who sought to tear them apart. "And we're not backing down." The words were a Gala thrown, a challenge that reverberated through the room, casting the die for their future. Yet as the confrontation reached its crescendo, the shadows of betrayal and power struggles loomed large, threatening to overshadow the fragile bonds they had fought to rebuild. In the crucible of their love, tested and tempered by the fires of adversity, Sophia and Alex faced the breaking point, a moment of truth that would define the very essence of their reimagined world. Chapter 7. The Inferno of Truth. The estate's grand ballroom echoed with the whispers of the past, its opulence a stark contrast to the storm brewing within its walls. The confrontation with Alex's father had set the stage for a night of revelations, each moment charged with the weight of secrets and the sharp edge of betrayal. Sophia and Alex stood side by side, their resolve a fragile shield against the onslaught of the night. The air was thick with tension, the gilded chandeliers casting long shadows that danced like specters across the polished marble floor. The first explosion came from a source all too familiar, Isabella, her entrance as dramatic as her intentions were transparent. Her eyes gleamed with a dangerous mix of triumph and malice as she approached, her voice a silken purr that belied the venom within. "I see you've brought your little project along, Alex," she taunted, her gaze flicking to Sophia with a calculated cruelty. Sophia's heart burned with the sting of the insult, yet she held her ground, unwilling to let Isabella's barbs pierce the armor she had painstakingly forged. "Isabella," she said coolly, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "We're not here for your games." But Isabella was undeterred, her smile a weapon honed for destruction. "Oh, but games are all we have, aren't they? Especially when secrets are the currency." Her words were a challenge, an invitation for chaos to reign. The air crackled with anticipation, the unspoken question of what Isabella knew hanging like a sword poised to strike. Alex's gaze was a storm of conflicted emotions, the weight of his past and the precariousness of their future entwined in a dance as volatile as it was intimate. "You don't know what you're talking about," Alex growled, his voice a low rumble of warning. But the defiance in his tone was tinged with a vulnerability that made Sophia's heart ache. Isabella laughed, the sound a cruel melody that filled the room. "Don't I? Maybe you should ask Sophia about the deal she made with my father." The accusation landed like a thunderclap, the shockwave of its implications shattering the fragile peace that had held them together. Sophia's heart lurched, the ground shifting beneath her feet as the truth of her own actions came to light. "Isabella's lying," she insisted, her voice tight with the strain of holding back her own secrets. But the flicker of doubt had already taken root, the tendrils of suspicion winding their way through Alex's gaze. The second confrontation was swift and brutal, Alex's father stepping forward with a scornful sneer. "You think you can defy me, Alex, with her?" His gaze was a blade, cutting through the veneer of civility with ruthless precision. Alex squared his shoulders, his defiance a beacon against the storm. "This isn't about you anymore, father, it's about us," he said, his voice unwavering even as the weight of his father's expectations bore down upon him. The declaration was a crack of thunder, a declaration of independence that sent shockwaves through the room. Yet even as Alex stood firm, Sophia could feel the tendrils of doubt creeping in, the fear that their second chance was crumbling under the pressure. But in that moment of vulnerability, a fierce determination took root within her, a resolve to fight for the love that had been forged in the crucible of their hearts. "This is our choice," Sophia said, her voice clear and strong as she met the gaze of the man who sought to tear them apart. "And we're not backing down." The words were a gauntlet thrown, a challenge that reverberated through the room, casting the die for their future. Yet as the confrontation reached its crescendo, the shadows of betrayal and power struggles loomed large, threatening to overshadow the fragile bonds they had fought to rebuild. In the crucible of their love, tested and tempered by the fires of adversity, Sophia and Alex faced the breaking point, a moment of truth that would define the very essence of their reimagined world. The final blow came swift and unexpected, a betrayal from within their ranks. Alex's father, in a desperate bid to maintain control, revealed a partnership with Isabella that had been forged in secrecy, a plan to dismantle Alex's autonomy and reclaim the family's empire. The revelation was a dagger to the heart, a devastating blow that shattered the fragile trust Sophia and Alex had built. The room erupted into chaos, accusations and recriminations flying like shrapnel in the air. In the midst of the maelstrom, Isabella struck with her final, venomous gambit, a declaration that Sophia had been complicit in the partnership, her actions a calculated betrayal masked as love. The accusation was a poison that seeped into the core of their relationship, a betrayal that cut deeper than any wound. Sophia's heart ached with the weight of the truth, the realization that her own choices had contributed to the inferno that now threatened to consume them. Alex's gaze was a storm of fury and heartbreak, the foundations of their love crumbling beneath the onslaught of revelations. "How could you?" he demanded, his voice a raw edge of pain. Sophia's voice trembled with the weight of her confession, her heart breaking beneath the strain. "I thought I was protecting us," she whispered, her words a fragile plea for understanding. "I never wanted this." But the damage was done, the inferno of truth leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. The love they had fought so hard to reclaim lay in ruins, a casualty of secrets and lies that had festered for too long. As the night descended into chaos, the ballroom a battleground of shattered dreams and broken promises, Sophia and Alex faced their darkest hour. The choices before them were stark and unforgiving, the stakes higher than they had ever imagined. In the crucible of their hearts, tested to the breaking point by betrayal and passion, they were forced to confront the ultimate question: could love survive the inferno, or had they been doomed from the start? In the end, it was a bittersweet victory, a dark triumph forged in the fires of adversity. Sophia and Alex emerged from the inferno changed, their love scarred, but not extinguished, a testament to the power of the human heart to endure even the most devastating trials. Yet, as they faced the transformed world before them, the echoes of their past lingered like shadows, a reminder that even in the fiercest of loves, nothing is ever truly certain. The night was theirs, a canvas upon which they could paint a new beginning, a world reimagined through the lens of love and redemption. But the road ahead was fraught with challenges, their path littered with the remnants of what had been lost and the promise of what could yet be reclaimed. As they stepped into the night, hand in hand, their hearts alight with the possibilities of a world transformed, Sophia and Alex embraced the unknown, their love a flickering flame against the darkness, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. Yet beneath the surface lay the shadows of their past, the wounds that had yet to fully heal, a reminder